Hey guys, what's going on? Counterspell Hater here, back with another video. This time we'll be looking at Animar, probably one of my other favorite commanders. So Animar, Soul of Elements, one blue, one red, one green, for a legendary elemental with protection from white and from black, meaning that anything of those colors in Magic cannot touch this. So any white or black creature cannot deal damage to this. Any white or black ability cannot target this. Sorcery spell, etc. Whenever you cast a creature spell, put a +++ count on Animar, Soul of Elements, and creature spells you cast cost one generic less to cast for each ++ count on Animar. He's a 1/1. So this is obviously about like getting a bunch of creatures. So normally how you play this is Morse, but this is but I'm a special type of player. I'm a power player. So this is Element, which is probably far more powerful. Anyways, let's get started. Vengevine for 2 generic and double green is an elemental with haste, 4/3, and whenever you cast a spell, if it's the second creature spell you cast this turn, you may return Vengevine from your graveyard to the battlefield. So what you for casting creature spells, Fierce Empath for 2 generic and green. It is an elf that when it enters battlefield, it allows you to search your library for a creature card with preferred mana cost 6 or greater. Reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle 1. Lotus Cobra for 1 generic and a green is a snake with landfall. Whenever a land enters battlefield under your control, have 1 mana if in one color. 2/1. There'll be a card that will freely allow us to kind of exploit this card in this deck. Avenger Zendikar for 5 generic and double green is an elemental 5/5. When it enters the battlefield, create a 0/1 green planet creature token for each land you control. Then landfall. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may put a ++ count on each plant creature you control. So nice army. Primordial Sage for 4 and double green. 4 generic and double green, excuse me. It's Spirit 4/5. And whenever you play a creature spell, you may draw a card. Dragon Master Outcast for a singular red is a human challenge on 1 that states at the beginning of your upkeep. If you control 6 or more lands, put a 5/5 red dragon creature token with flying onto the battlefield. Vigor for 3 generic and triple green is an elemental incarnation with trample 6/6. If damage would be dealt to a creature you control other than Vigor, prevent that damage. Put a ++ count on that creature for each 1 damage prevented this way. So now it's really hard to kill your creatures. And when Vigor is put into a graveyard from anywhere, so mill, sacrifice, dying, etc., discard, shuffle it into its owner's library, so it may or may not come back. In that case, Leafkin Druid for 1 generic and a green is an elemental druid. 0/3 can tap to add a green, or if you control 4 more creatures, it adds double green instead. Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn for 15 generic is a legendary creature Eldrazi 15/15. Can't be countered, and whenever you cast it, take an extra turn after this one. Flying, protection from colored spells, and Annihilator 6, so colored spells cannot target this, or just anything that is of colored spells in general. Whenever Emrakul is put into a graveyard from anywhere, its owner shuffle his or her graveyard into his or her library, excuse me. And since this is 15 generic mana, that's colorless mana that we're spending on Emrakul, meaning that if our commander has 15 counters on him, we can cast Emrakul for free. Hydroid Crystals for X generic, green and blue. So how X spells would work, and in this case X creature spells, they would cost X. They would cost like so much less according to Animar. So then you would have to spend that much less mana on it to get even more. So say you wanted like So say Animar was causing your creature spells to cast 5 generic less to cast, and you had like 7 mana available to you. So you'd spend green and blue on this, and then you could spend like 5, but you could actually spend 5 but call out 10 for X, since Hydroid Crystals in this way would cost 5 less to cast, making it 7, which is what you have. So that explains that. Anyways, Hydroid Crystals for extra generic green and blue is a jellyfish Hydro Beast 0/0, and whenever you cast this spell, you gain half X life and draw half X cards. Round down each time, flying trample, and enters battlefield with X plus counters on it. Stonecoil Serpent, so same thing, just X. Artifact creature snake 0/0, reach, trample, protection from multicolored, so multicolored things cannot touch this. And it enters battlefield with X plus counters on it. Reach and trample, very important. This means this could be a great blocker. If it had vigilance, it'd be even better, and a great attacker. Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger, 10 generic for a legendary Eldrazi 10/10, and whenever you cast it, exile 2 target permanents, indestructible, and when it attacks, defending player exiles the top 20 cards of his or her library. Masked Admirers for 2 generic and double green. They, I guess, are an elf shaman, and when Masked Admirers enters the battlefield, draw a card for 2, and whenever you cast a creature spell, you may pay double green, and if you do, you return it from your graveyard to your hand. So this could get you a whole bunch of cards if it keeps just dying for whatever reason, and just, being another creature spell to cast. Primeval Titan for 4 generic and double green is a giant 6/6 with trample, and when it enters the battlefield or attacks, you may search your library for up to 2 land cards. Not basic. They don't have to be basic because it doesn't say basic in there, so that's pretty nice. 2 land cards, put them onto the battlefield tapped and shuffle your library. So this could be like a Nykthos, Shrine to Nyx, Drownyard Temple, Rimback, would not in this case because this is green, red, and blue. But still pretty powerful. Hooded Hydra for X generic and double green is a snake Hydra, and it enters battlefield with X plus counters on it, 0/0, and when Hooded Hydra dies, put a 1/1 green snake creature token onto the battlefield for each +1 counter on it, morph of 3 generic and double green. So that means you can cast this creature face down as a 2/2 for 3 generic, and then which is how this deck would usually be built, like cast cheap morphs and make Animar real big, but that's not how we're doing it today. Then you could turn that card face up for its more cost, I believe, at any time if it's a creature. As Hooded Hydra enters, as Hooded Hydra is turned face up, put 5 counters on it. Risen Reef. So this is one of the key stars in this deck. For 1 generic, a green and a blue. If you have not seen this thing work on like MTG, like seriously, this thing cranks 90s like no one's business. Go watch some of the like crazy elementals content that I've posted. Like this is control. So it's an elemental 1/1, and whenever Risen Reef or another elemental enters battlefield under your control, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land card, you may put it onto the battlefield tapped. If you don't, put the card onto the battlefield, put it into your hand. So this is why we're doing elementals, because they can help us find lands, and they can it will just get out of control quick, allowing us to cast more and more spells. Thrix, the Sudden Storm for 3 generic and double blue. He is a legendary elemental giant with flash and flying, meaning he can be cast at any time. 4/5. Spells you cast with converted mana cost 5 or greater cost 1 generic less to cast and can't be countered. So pretty nice. Living Hive. Good example here. For 6 generic and double green, it's an elemental insect with trample 6/6, and when it deals combat damage to a player, put them many 1/1 green insect creature tokens onto the battlefield. So it can get you an armory. Emrakul, the Promised End, for 13 generic, 13/13. It's a legendary Eldrazi. It costs 1 less to cast for each card type among cards in your graveyard. But that doesn't matter. What matters is, first of all, when you cast Emrakul, you gain control of target opponent during that player's next turn, so you control like their entire turn. And after that turn, however, that player takes an extra turn. So here's the thing: if you have Stranglehold out, that extra turn does not happen, meaning that you just gain control of their turn and they get nothing in exchange. Flying, trampled, protection from instants, so instants and sorcery stuff cannot touch this. No, sorry, instants can't touch this. Flying, trample, so really hard to block, and also it's a 13/13. So Soul of the Harvest for 4 generic and double green is an elemental with trample 6/6, and whenever another non-targeting creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card. So pretty nice. Ivy elemental, X generic, and a green for an elemental 0/0 that enters battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. Magmatic Force for 5 generic, and triple red is an elemental that stays at the beginning of each upkeep. It deals 3 damage to target creature or player, 7/7. Hangerback Walker. So now I believe how this works is like the cost less either affects like total mana you pay or like both X's. I'm not too sure. Someone please answer that in the comments below. And also, while you're doing that, comment what commander you want to see next, because if you're the first one, then I will dedicate the next episode that I can't, a future episode I should say, not the next episode, a future episode to that commander, and as soon as possible. Anyways, back to the video. Hangerback Walker enters battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it. So X is like however much mana you pumped into both X's in total divided by 2. So like say you pumped 5 into each of them, that'd be 10. So then 5 +1/+1 counters, or you just, how many like mana you pumped into each X, you get it. And when Hangerback Walker dies, put a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying onto the battlefield for each +1/+1 counter on Hangerback Walker. Then for 1 generic, you can tap it and put a +1/+1 counter on it, 0/0. Steelbane Hydra, X generic and double green for a turtle Hydra that enters battlefield with X +1/+1 counters on it, 0/0. And then for 2 generic and a green, you may remove a +1/+1 counter from it and destroy target artifact or enchantment. So nice artifact and or enchantment removal if need be. Runaway Steamkin, 1 generic and a red for an elemental 1/1. Whenever you cast a red spell, if it has fewer than 3 +1/+1 counters on it, put a +1/+1 counter on Runaway Steamkin, and then you can remove 3 counters from it to add triple red mana. So, and since we're casting probably a lot of red spells, that could be very beneficial. Elder Deep Fiend, for 8 generic, it's an Eldrazi octopus with flash and a merge of 5 generic and double blue, 5/6. So you may cast a spell by sacrificing a creature and paying the emerge cost reduced by that creature's converted mana cost. So say you sacrifice a creature with a mana cost of 5, then the emerge cost for Elder Deep Fiend in that case would be just double blue. And whenever you cast Elder Deep Fiend, tap up to 4 target permanents, so it can shut down your opponents. Arboretum Elemental, 7 generic and double green. It's an elemental with Convoke, 7/5. meaning that your creatures can help cast a spell. Each creature you tap while casting the spell pays for 1 generic or 1 mana of that creature's color. Hexproof. This creature can't be the target of spells or abilities your opponents control. Creeping Trailblazer, red-green for an elemental 2/2. Other elementals you control get +1/+0, and for 2 generic, a red and a green, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each elemental you control. So nice. It can pump itself up, possibly finish off your opponents. Tornado elemental for 5 generic and double green is an elemental 6/6 that when it enters the battlefield, it deals 6 damage to each creature with flying and may have it assign its combat damage as though it weren't blocked, which is real nice. That means so the difference between that and like unblockable is that like unblockable can't be blocked, but in this case, like assign its combat damage as though it weren't blocked. It still is blocked. It just deals all the damage without any trample, but if it's going up against something like with Death Hydra, like a 6/6, it's still going to die. But you also have like the choice of whether or not to kill that thing or to just deal 6 damage. It's like a Planeswalker player, excuse me. Sylvala, Heart of the Wilds, for 1 generic and double green. She is a legendary elf scout, 2/3, and whenever another creature enters the battlefield, its controller may draw a card if its power is greater than each other creature's power. And then for a green, you can tap her and add X mana in any combination of colors to your mana pool, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. And since our commander is going to be pretty big, that could really propel us far into the game by allowing us to cast even more spells. But Malignis, for 3 generic and double red, it's an elemental spirit whose power and toughness are each equal to half the highest life total among your opponents rounded up, and damage that would be dealt by Malignis can't be prevented. Primordial Hydra for X generic and double green. Enters the battlefield with X plus counters on it, 0/0. At the beginning of your upkeep, you double the number of plus counters on Primordial Hydra, and it has trample as long as it has 10 or more plus counters on it. So if you cast a lot of spells, then this is gonna cost a lot less than if you're able to like make X, like the X value very big, then this could end the game real quick. Once it gets destroyed by some annoying blue-black player. Ancient Green Warden for 4 generic and double green. It is an elemental with reach 5/7 that allows you to play land from your graveyard. If a land enters the battlefield causes a triggered ability of a opponent you control to trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. Ether Snipe, for 5 generic and a blue, is an elemental that when it comes into play, you return target non-land opponent to its owner's hand or 4, and evoke cost of 1 generic and double blue. So you may play this spell for its evoke cost. If you do, it's sacrificed when it comes into play. So what you could do is when Ether Snipe comes into play, return target non-land opponent to its owner's hand. You return Ether Snipe to your hand and just keep casting it, putting a lot of plus counters possibly on Animar within a single turn, since eventually you get to a point where Ether Snipe would only cost like a single blue. And that'd be very nice. Forgotten Ancient for 3 generic and a green. It's an elemental 0/3 that states whenever a player casts a spell, and that is on all sides of the table, so not you, but also your opponents. Not just you, I should say, but also your opponent. You may put a plus counter on Forgotten Ancient. At the beginning of the upkeep, you may remove any number of plus counters from Forgotten Ancient onto other creatures. So this could so essentially you could double up on your counters on Animar, since you're casting a whole bunch of creature spells. Endless One for X generic, it's an Eldrazi 0/0 that has got with X plus 1 plus counters on it. Phylath, World Sculptor. For 4 generic, a red and a green. It's a legendary creature elemental 5/5. Enters the battlefield. You create a 0/1 green plant creature token for each basic land you control. Unlike Avengers Zendikar, which does that, but just for each land you control. Landfall, whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, put 4 puzzle cards on target planet creature you control. Flankin Harbinger, for a single red, it's an elemental shaman that when it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for an elemental card, reveal it, then shuffle your library, and put that card on top of it. 1/1. Beast Whisperer for 2 generic and double green. It's an elf druid that allows you to draw a card when you cast a creature spell. 2/3. Void Winnower, for 9 generic, it's an Eldrazi 11/9 that prohibits your opponents from casting spells with even converted mana cost, and your opponents can't block with creatures with even converted mana cost. Maelstrom Wanderer, 5 generic, a blue, a red, and green. It's a legendary elemental that gives creatures you control haste. 7/5, Cascade. So whenever you cast a spell, you exile a card to the top of your library until you exile a non card that costs less. You may cast it without paying its mana cost. Put the exile card on the bottom in a random order, then do it again. So you could be able to cast 2 creature spells for free. That could be 7 CMC or less. Marag, Fury of Akam, for 4 generic and double red. He is a legendary Minotaur warrior, 6/6. Each creature you control gets +1/+0 for each time it is attacked this turn. Landfall, whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, if it's your main phase, there's an additional combat phase after this phase, and at the beginning of that combat, untap all creatures you control. Apocalypse Hydra, for X generic and red and green, is a Hydra 0/0 that comes into play with X +1/+1 counters on it. And if X is 5 or more, it comes into play with an additional X +1/+1 counters on it, so double it up essentially. And then from 1 generic and a red, you can remove a +1/+1 counter from it, and it deals 1 damage to target creature or player. Ashaya, Soul of the Wild, for 3 generic and double green. It is a legendary elemental whose power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control, and non-token creatures you control or forest lands in addition to their other types. They're still affected by summoning sickness, meaning they can't tap immediately when they come out. But here's the thing, now all your creatures, thanks to this creature, can trigger off landfall abilities. So Marag, Phylath, Omnath, all that. Wildwood Scourge, for X generic and green, is a Hydra who enters the battlefield with X +1/+1 counters, 0/0, and whenever 1 or more +1/+1 counters are put on another non-Hydra creature you control, put a +1/+1 counter on Wildwood Scourge. In the sense we're casting creatures, spells, and counters are being put onto Animar, who's a non-Hydra creature. Wildwood Scourge will get real big, real quick. Nyx Lotus, for 4 generic. It's a legendary artifact that enters the battlefield tapped. And then you tap it, choose the color, and add an amount of mana of that color equal to your devotion to that color. Your devotion to a color is the number of mana symbols of that color and the mana cost of cards you control. Stonehoof Chieftain, for 7 generic and a green. He is a Centaur warrior, 8/8, trample indestructible. Whenever another creature you control attacks, it gains trample and indestructible until end of turn. So pretty hard to kill and pretty hard to block. Royal Elemental, for 3 generic and triple blue. It's an elemental with flying. 3/2. Landfall, whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may gain control of target creature for as long as you control Royal Elemental. 3/2. Mistcutter Hydra, biggest middle finger to blue yet. X generic and green for a Hydra 0/0 that first of all can't be countered. Haste and protection from blue. Take that. Miss Cutter, Hydra enters the battlefield with X multiple counters on it. So this could just outright end the game if you are able to give this trample. Multani Yavma's avatar for 4 generic and double green. He is a legendary elemental avatar with reach and trample 0/0, and he gets +1/+1 for each land you control and each land card in your graveyard. And then for 1 generic and a green, you can return 2 lands you control to its owner's hand and return Multani from graveyard to your hand. Nyx Bloom Ancient for 4 generic and triple green. Like I said, if you have not seen this along with like Risen Reef, go into action. Check out some of the MTG Arena content I do. It's the crazy elementals content. Those episodes. Enchantments, creature elemental, trample 5/5. If you tap a permanent for mana, it produces 3 times as much of that mana instead. So this could just outright just end the game for you, propel you so far ahead that it doesn't even matter for your opponents. Desolation Twin, 10 generic for a 10/10 that when you cast it, it puts a 10/10 colors Eldrazi creature token onto the battlefield. Omnath, Locust of Rage for 3 generic, double red, double green. He is a legendary elemental 5/5. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a 5/5 red and green elemental creature token onto the battlefield. And whenever Omnath, Locust of Rage, or another elemental control dies, he deals 3 damage to target creature or player. Lavakin Brawler for 3 generic and a red. Elemental Warrior. When it attacks, it gets +1/+0 until in turn for each elemental you control. 2/4. It that betrays for 12 generic, it's an Eldrazi with Annihilator 2, 11/11, meaning when it attacks, defending player sacrifices 2 permanents, and whenever opponent sacrifices any non-token permanents, put that card onto the battlefield under your control. So that could just end the game as well. Lifeblood Hydra for X generic and triple green is a Hydra with trample 0/0 and enters the battlefield with X +1 counters on it. And whenever it dies, you gain life and draw cards equal to its power. Soul Surge Elemental, 3 generic and then red. It's an elemental first strike, and its power and toughness. Its power is equal to the number of creatures you control, and it's got 1 toughness. Omnath, Locust of the Royal for 1 generic, 1 green, 1 blue, and 1 red. He is a legendary elemental 2/3, and when it enters battlefield, it deals damage to any target equal to the number of elementals you control. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on target elemental you control. If you control 8 or more lands, draw a card. Warden Reef Hydra for 4 generic and double green is a Hydra with trample 5/5. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on Warden Reef Hydra. If that land is a force, you put 2 +1/+1 counters on it instead. And then we get into our lands. So our only non-basic land is Gaea's Cradle. It's a legendary land that can tap to add a green mana to your mana pool for each creature you control. And since we'll have a lot out, probably due to like all the mana schemes and stuff, this will add us a lot of green mana. And then let's see. So then we have 30. All right, so 13 forests, 13 basic islands, and 13 basic mountains. So it's kind of messed up. And with that, we at the end of this commander guide starring Animar, Soul of Elements. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe. For a moment, I do believe I was at 15 subscribers, so please, whoever unsubscribed, or if that was a YouTube thing, please resubscribe again. keep the subscribe count going up, keep the view count going up, keep the comment count going up. Like I said, first person to comment on this video or on any video that has not been commented on, I guess yet, we'll make it this video. First person to comment on this video gets to decide what commander is done next, whether it's custom or real. So just go to the race to the comment section and just type in the commander you want to see showcase next time on this channel. Keep the like count going up on those videos, guys. Keep the view count going up, like I said. Keep it up, going up on Chatterfang will help, like some of the most popular videos, but also some of the ones that haven't been getting attention. Take some time out of your days, sometime, and just watch some of those videos. I like to see the view count go up. Hit the notification bell so that way you don't miss more of this content. Share this video along with other videos on this channel that you may or may not have seen with others. And I love you all who have been supporting me. We're only 6 subscribers away from 20, so we can do a 20 so special. If 6 more of you guys out there subscribe to me, that'd be great. Anyways, I believe that is it. I will see you next time. Goodbye.